The sight of the shrimp can immerse the viewer in a watery world. Even the slender whisker conceals a microcosm. The artist's impression can truly transcend the reality. All these shrimps hail from Xiangtan, Hunan, a world of grassy streams and ponds. They were all created by Qi Baishi, who later would win fame and prestige in Beijing. This courtyard at Kuache Hutong in Beijing used to draw numerous art connoisseurs. Even lay people knew about Qi Baishi, the renowned painter who lived here. He could render the shrimp so vividly that they seemed to swim up the canvas. Unlike his ancient predecessors, Qi Baishi used the different shades of ink for modeling the shrimp's torso and head. The torso would look translucent, while the head had a firm solidity. The deceptive casual strokes were actually deliberate and painstaking. Each section of the torso and each tremulous whisker conveys the resistance of water and the shrimp's physical exertion. These creatures are not passively subject matter. Rather, they are asserting their presence.
齐白石画虾呀，应该说是举世闻名哈。大家都知道虾在水中游，那么水是有一定阻力和浮力的，尤其是阻力，它其实是在中间，它是有一些曲线变化的。而齐白石最大的能耐是什么？像李可染说的，慢，哪怕齐白石画这个须子都画得非常慢，那多难呢？我就想说，这一根须子就足以让我们后辈所感叹哈，说齐白石真的还是很了不起的啊。
The vivid shrimp is only one of the denizens in Qi Baishi's visual repertoire. He also excelled in painting the cabbage, which was rendered charmingly. And there are persimmons, pomegranates, and other fruits, as well as various insects. He even painted daily household implements like the rake, basket, and abacus. People have wondered why he preferred to portray the mundane life, and how his brushstrokes would instill such vividness. To understand Qi Baishi's imagery requires a glimpse into his life in rural Hunan, where he was called Qi Azhi. Qi Baishi was born in the village of Xingziwu. His was a peasant family. He was named Azhi. The countryside was a paradise, populated by chickens, ducks, and all the birds and insects. In the pond swarmed the carefree shrimps. There, children grew and thrived like crops in the fields. When he was 19, Azhi learned wood carving. Then he studied drawing and painting, and came to be regarded as a literary figure. The chirping insects in the countryside accompanied his younger years. There he lived several decades and seemed destined to spend the rest of his life and fade into the landscape. Then life took an abrupt turn. When he was 54, the chaos of war and banditry descended on his hometown. He found it necessary to flee north to Beijing and try to make a living by painting. In Beijing, a city redolent of culture and history, there was a millennium-old literati painting tradition. The subjects ranged from elegant floral still life to sweeping landscape embodying human aspirations. But Qi Baishi, a new arrival from countryside, was determined to be a type of his own. The years spent in rural areas has instilled in him a love and worship of nature. So he painted the creatures living in the grass. This was a radical departure from the regular subjects of conventional fine art. Qi Baishi's imagery was the equivalent of the vernacular language, in contrast to the heavily elusive art vocabulary back then. He embraced the mundane, rejected the cliched sentiments, and refused to ape the ancient styles.
趣是什么？趣是趣味，趣味后面是什么？是格调，是你的品味。那么中国艺术中很重要的一个点就是你的格调如何。
After becoming an established master, in his residence at the Kuache Hutong, Qi Baishi still followed his regular routine. After a breakfast of plain noodles, he will paint and study and write poetry until nightfall. The paintings taken out of the courtyard were all inspired by the vivid rural memories and the most profound love for the motherland.
齐白石作为一个艺术家，他热爱生活，热爱家乡百姓，而且力图使他的作品让更多的人喜欢的这样一位技艺高超、学养深厚的一个艺术大师。
His love for rural life in an episode of national crisis inspired his principled fortitude. As China was bullied and invaded, he wrote with indignation, "As I look out tearfully, the land of China is no longer intact." He indignantly painted the crab to allude to the arrogance of aggressors. He lovingly painted the winter birds to inspire the populace and urged them not to bow their head to adversity. Some advised him to tone it down. His answer was, "I was an old man in chaotic years, and death means little to me." This is a principled and genuine artist of the people. For his family and country, he had unending love. In the 1970s and 1980s, Qi Baishi's shrimp imagery appeared on daily utensils, like crockery and wash basins. Even the illiterate were familiar with Qi Baishi's imagery. He was called the people's painter.
那么多人喜欢他的作品，我觉得这就体现了他的作品的人民性。我们所有的观众能够在他的作品中读出一个很可爱的、很朴实的一个艺术家的一个灵魂。
To create for the people, to speak for the people, and to express for the people. Qi Baishi brought fine art to the life of the common people and reached the multitudes. This was how his art merged into eternity.